would be great. And as I was watching those videos yesterday, I just made a list of questions. I don't know if we'll have enough time to go over those questions today, but if not, I'll put them in an email to you.
Okay. Yeah, we should. We'll definitely be able to do some Q&A.
For sure.
And Brittany may have to leave just a few minutes early.
I'm here.
I pushed her right up against another demo, so she has another demo start at 10. So she may have to leave just a few minutes early.
Okay. Well, if y'all are ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
She's running in. She's running.
Perfect.
All right, we're ready.
Take it away, Nathan.
Thank you guys so much again for joining us. Nice to speak to you again. Appreciate you taking the time. So, Misty, if you want to just advance that slide. So what we'll do today is kind of go through, Misty will take you through Sage Intacct, and we will answer your questions and kind of take you through all the reasons that we think that Intacct is a great fit for you. Everything that you've told me, Donna, has all indicators are pointing to Sage Intacct, and I hope that I think that'll be a fantastic solution. It is truly modern. It's what I call sort of the next generation of accounting systems, just because it's true cloud, and there's a lot of reasons for that, especially the way it's built with dimensions, as you know, and all the rest. And then Misty, if you want to advance that, so you'll see, of course, you guys, we've been talking. I'm Nathan, and I'd like to introduce Misty Halleck. She's one of our very best consultants. I love working with Misty. We do quite a bit of work together, and she's really, really knowledgeable, and she'll be able to answer all your questions. So Misty, if you'd like to just start taking us through it, it's great.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here today. So as you can see here, I have 23 years of accounting and implementation experience with all sorts of different Sage products. Construction's always been my specialty. However, over the years, I have had some clients similar to yours, which is sort of exciting, and I can talk to that here shortly. So we're going to just take you right into Sage Intacct, and this is the demo environment that I've set up for you guys. And one of the things that's really unique to Intacct, which I really enjoy sharing, is the dashboards. And how I describe the dashboards is, if you imagine yourself driving in your car, you always want to know how fast you're going, if you have any check engine lights come on, you know, if your headlights are left on, if your emergency brake is left on, any kind of dashboard in your car is sort of similar to the dashboard in Intacct. Like, you wouldn't want to drive your company without controls. And so the dashboards give you nice insight and controls into how your company is doing. Do you have any speed bumps that you need to watch out for? Do you have any check engine lights coming on in your company? And the really cool thing about Intacct too is the multi-entity option. So you can see all of your entities in one single place. Like this dashboard, for example, is all 5 entities in this sales demo company. So a dashboard is simply that. It's just a great way to see insight into your company. And you learned a little bit, Donna, about dimensions yesterday, but everything is based on dimensions inside of Intacct. So these are tags that you're tagging to a specific transaction, and then you can segregate your data based on those dimensions. Now, a dashboard, these are easily created, and they can be created by anybody who has the admin rights to do so. So that's another thing we should talk about, is the security within Intacct, is that it's user-based and role-based. So if you set up security roles and apply those to your users, then people who don't have access to the things that they're not supposed to have access to won't have access to them. So you can see that the dashboard, I'm logged in as Emma, the controller. And this is just my insights for all 5 entities, like I mentioned before. But if I want to build a dashboard, it's very easy to do. And also, I can drag and drop these modules inside of the dashboard. So say I don't want to see the top 10 customers, I want to see that one over here. Or if I want to add something, I can do that on the fly. And the beauty of this is that it's live data. So I can drill down to the actual data or the actual record. I can drill all the way down to the GL here. And so you can see as I'm hovering over things, they just become hyperlinks that I could click on, and it could take me to the general ledger report of where is this transaction populating from. So it's live data, and it can be, you know, as soon as you go make a transaction within any entity and you come back here and you hit refresh, the information is going to be here. So it's live data. You don't have to sync up anything. It just refreshes itself and the information is here. So there's these nice performance cards when you do dashboards, and the possibilities are kind of endless, which is just a really unique feature to Intacct that I haven't seen in any other program. So it's just a nice way to look at things as a company whole. So that's kind of dashboards. And then we talked a little bit about multi-entity, and from what Nathan has told me, your company, and I Googled you guys because I do that with everything, but I noticed that you guys have 11 locations, which is pretty cool, all in the Dallas, or I'm sorry, the Texas, is it the Dallas, Houston area?
Yeah, all East Texas and into the Dallas DFW area, and just moving into the Houston area.
Okay, awesome. So I set up just 5 entities for you inside the sales demo, so you could kind of get a grip on how the multi-entity works. It's super incredibly powerful just in the fact that you can see all entities at once. And these are also, you know, I'll mention the security and the user roles. So if, you know, you have multi-entities can share things. They don't have to share things, but they can share things. Like say if you have the same list of vendors that you always use, you could install those at the top level and they could broadcast across all the entities or some of the entities. You have that choice. And the same with customers, which might be kind of interesting in this role, just because, you know, you guys have patients and they're all over Eastern Texas, so that might not work. But you could also share chart of accounts, which is awesome because when you start to make intercompany transactions, you can, I'm sure you've experienced where that's difficult because the chart of accounts over in, say, Fort Worth doesn't match the chart of accounts in Georgetown because maybe they're even using an entirely different software. So trying to get those journal entries to line up, you know, when you're broadcasting costs across your entities is super difficult if you don't share the chart of accounts. So in Intacct, you have the choice. You don't have to, but you have the choice to share your chart of accounts amongst all your entities. And then if there are certain entities that you don't want to use a certain account, you can always lock them out of that particular entity out of that account. So it's just a really cool way to see everything at the top level, and then you can see your different entities and the transactions that fall underneath your different entities. So let's talk a little bit more about your intercompany transactions. Nathan mentioned that was one of the things that you guys struggle with is having the ability to do your intercompany transactions. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's challenging for anybody, and Intacct handles it really nicely. I've been very impressed with it. So this is just a general dashboard for inter-entity reconciliation. So these are just transactions that have happened either at the top level and they're broadcasting out to the different entity levels, or you can go from entity to entity. And there's lots of different ways that this can happen, but one of the ways is doing a journal entry. Say you have a journal entry of, let's just pop over to a journal entry. So this journal entry was professional fees. So the top level wants to charge the other entities, and actually, in this particular case, Atlanta is charging these 4 entities a professional fees expense. So you have to do a journal entry, and normally outside, if you weren't using Intacct, you would have to do a journal entry in each one of these entities to make this work. So you have to keep track of where you made that journal entry, where it's happening. But the beauty of Intacct is it's all in one system. So you have one point of truth, and these departments and locations are dimensions. So again, you're tagging your transactions with those dimensions, which allows you to segregate your data and make reporting much easier. So for this example, you have your journal entry, and it's done at the Atlanta adult care entity, And they're broadcasting this journal entry across here. And how they're doing that in this journal entry is they're tagging a dimension, a location for each entity. So this is what a journal entry looks like in here. And I've just preloaded these for you to, know that your time is valuable too. So there's no reason for you to watch me make journal entries. So the general ledger report, I'm just popping through these tabs. The general ledger report, you can see here. So if we go back to the journal entry, I'm billing $1,200 to the Fort Worth location from the Atlanta location. So I made one journal entry and it broadcast it across all the entities that were tagged in the dimensions. So this is the Fort Worth entity, and I can see here my $1,200. It came from that journal entry. So I made one journal entry and I broadcasted across all the entities that were appropriate. And then the same thing happens if say, for instance, you have two entities in the same location and you need to divvy out the electric bill, for just a good example. So that could happen. You could do the accounts payable bill at the top level, like this one is for rent or repairs and maintenance. So this one is paying Shore Waste Management for repairs and maintenance, and they did it at the top level. And by tagging a location, they are broadcasting that fee of $1,200 to repairs and maintenance to the different locations. So they did one AP bill, they paid one AP bill, but it broadcasted out by using those dimensions. Okay, so we'll pop over here to Fort Worth again, and we can see this GL for repairs and maintenance. Here's my $1,500 that came from Shore Waste Management. So there's lots of ways to broadcast that information, and it could be just from entity to entity. It could be from the top level to all the entities. That's a really unique thing to Intacct, which is pretty cool. Any questions around intercompany transactions and how they happen?
Right there with this journal entry, do you have the ability to set allocations based on percentages?
Yes. I mean, you could do the math in here. Is that what you're saying? Like you want to percentize like the $4,000, you want to say 25% is going to Fort Worth.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, and I think you can do recurring journal entries. Like if you have a just recurring JE that you're sending every single month that you have to distribute those costs across your entities, you could set that up and then just post it each month.
All right.
And again, you can always look at the inter-entity reconciliation. The dashboards are super awesome because you can just see what's going on as a whole. And you can filter these things. You can set up your dashboards to filter by different locations, by any dimension. There are 9 dimensions that come with the system, but there's the capability of having customized dimensions as well. And what a lot of companies do is, the typical suspect is, you have the customer, the location, the department, but you can change the terminology within here that makes it work for you. So maybe the customer becomes patients, or, so you can change the terminology around your dimensions so they don't have to be locked into what the system provides, which kind of makes it relative to your actual industry. Any other questions about that?
Are you able to import journal entries?
Yes, I absolutely love, because I've used different products of Sage in the past for a long, long time. And this is one of the few systems where I've actually seen import work and work well. You can import anything in here. In fact, you import all your vendors, all your, your timesheets, if you were going to use that feature, your customers, you can import everything. And Nathan told me that you guys use, is it ConTime? CanTime. Okay. So I had a client quite a while ago, but she had a similar business, much, much smaller, obviously, than yours. But she used a program that was kind of similar to that, where it's patient management, right? So you put in their health indicators, like their, the daily visit, what happened on the daily visit, and then can it also bill the client through there?
It bills the insurance. Yeah.
Okay, so it bills the insurance. Yeah, right. So it captures your time management, and it captures, like the patient health record, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, so Nathan and I were talking about that, and we'd have to investigate it a little bit further, but I'm sure that there's some integration that we can develop to where it could sync up with Intacct, or maybe you get the information into a CSV file and import it into Intacct, and we help you set up a template for that.
Yeah, so CanTime has almost everything in CanTime is exportable to CSV. And I'm aware of another CanTime client out of Florida, Pinnacle Home Health, that uses CanTime with Sage Intacct.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. And I have a slide about that in our PowerPoint that just talks about the integrations and how cool I think that is. So we'll get there.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Any other questions around inter-entity transactions?
I don't have any.
Okay. So accounts payable, let's pop over to that for just a second, because I've seen a lot of things over my years, and it's been very interesting how people process accounts payable. And I don't know if you guys have a lot of accounts payable other than like overhead stuff, but I imagine, you know, you have to buy supplies for the in-home healthcare, right? You guys provide supplies? Okay. So you probably have preferred vendors or whatever for that. But I'm popped over here to Chelsea, and Chelsea is the AP manager in this sales demo. And so Chelsea can only see the things that she's supposed to see. So she sees the dashboard for the AP manager. So she can see, these are the bills I have outstanding. These are our vendors. This is our vendor aging graph. This is our AP trend. She can see some of these performance cards that maybe someone else doesn't have access to, like an employee, just a regular employee. So we're going to just do a quick accounts payable bill, and I'm just going to show you how easy that is in here. And let's pick a vendor, any vendor. All right, let's American Express. We like to pay them, right? So I put in my bill number, my amount is 500. And so the allocation you can set up to where it's allocating a percentage to the different departments or location, depending on how you set it up. So those are called transaction definitions, and you can set them up however you need to. Let's say this is the wellness services department, and I'm going to put this to this entity because I'm at the top level. So I need to have a location of where this is going. And if I was working in the Fort Worth entity level, then the location could be the same as the entity level. It's just a matter of how you want to set it up. Oh, if it's travel though, let's see. What else we got? We probably got some COGS. Overhead on projects. Yeah, that seems good. Okay, travel. And we're going to pick a different location. Okay, so I can also drag and drop bills in here. I can drag images in here. It's pretty simple to do. Let's see here. So I have an AP invoice. So I'm just going to drag and drop an AP invoice in here, and I'm going to give it an ID. So it could be, let's see if this folder is going to work for me. It may or may not work. I love demos. They work great. I want to give you a folder, but you don't have a folder set up. But you can drag and drop if it's set up properly. So you can have an attachment of your PDF of your AP invoice in here, and it stores it in a protected folder. So, you know, not anybody can just open it. They have to be able to see it for sure. Okay, so let's see here. Oh. Wow, we just went all off task. Where did our, oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to say submit and new. Now I have a workflow set up in here. So if I say submit and new, and I pop over to my email address here in just about a jiffy, I am going to get an email that says, because I'm Emma the controller, and here is, I'm Emma the controller, and I just got an accounts payable bill email saying that I have a bill to approve. So if I click here, it's going to take me into Intacct, and it knows my user credentials, and it would ask for that if I wasn't logged in already. But these are all the invoices as Emma, the controller, has to approve. So she can approve batches of them. She can approve just one at a time. I can comment on the approval process, or if something's wrong with it, they can decline it and it will send it back to Chelsea, the AP manager, to fix. So there's nice workflows in here. And then we can talk about, and then as Chelsea, I get an email saying that this bill was approved. So it's a really nice system, and it's automated. And honestly, it's really not hard to set up either, which I really like. So this is the pay bills feature. And we were talking about this the other day in a demo, saying it's kind of funny because when I get a paper check in the mail now, I kind of don't want to touch it because of all the things that are going on at the moment in society. I'm just worried about touching a check. So they do have full capability of doing ACH through here, and you can, pay it through ACH instead of cutting paper checks. But if you have to cut a paper check, it's pretty easy to do as well. And it just has a filter. Let's see here. You should be able to see these are all our bills to pay. And say that it was, I can't remember which one I approved because I don't see American Express on here. But say it was this Cambridge Medical Supply, I would highlight that. I could short pay it if I needed to. I could apply discounts if I needed to. If I needed to pay sales tax on the actual invoice, I could look at the line details and break that out. And then I can, just cut a regular check, which you can have signatures in here also. So you can upload a signature to where you print on blank check stock. So it doesn't have anything pre-printed on it. And that's actually what Intacct prefers. But you could print the signature on there as well, in case you didn't have somebody locally that, maybe you guys aren't working in the same office right now because of what's going on. Let's see. So that's kind of accounts payable at a high level view. Do you have any questions around that?
What is your process to post your subledgers to your journal ledger?
The subjournals?
In Sage 100, when we process AP checks, we have to go through 2 steps to post to the AP subledger, and then we have to post to the general ledger. Is that a piece in here?
It's pretty automated. You would just say pay now, and as soon as you pay now and you run the check, there's an option for posting it. And then when you post it, it pulls it out of AP and puts it to your checking account. So it's kind of an automated process. You don't have to do any back work. You just hit post.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So if I were going to go into the check run, let's see if it would show me something. I don't have a check run here available yet, but I could create a check run, and it would, anything that's in your outbox in accounts payable, like to pay bills, it would pull in those into this check run information, and then you would post checks after they have printed, or if you're doing ACH. So there is a process around it, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
Okay. What else?
Yes.
Nathan mentioned to me that there is maybe some questions around the bank reconciliation.
Well, we use BankRec inside of Sage 100 now. Seems to work okay.
What version of 100 are you using, may I ask? Is it like ERP or?
It's an ERP Advanced 100.
Okay, just curious.
We do a lot of bank transfers from different companies.
So, Missy, just curious, how would a conversion from an on-prem, Sage 100 to Sage Intacct work as far as getting some of our historical information, I'm sure you guys have moved customers over. How would that work? Can you give us kind of a picture of how that would, work for us?
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's kind of a company preference. If And it just depends on the situation as far as how much historical data you would want to bring over. There is a migration tool that Kerr has used many, many times. So it would package up the data. The trickiest part is that normally your chart of accounts is so drastically different from what Intacct would produce because of the dimensions that it becomes hard to map the old data to the new data. And I won't say that it's impossible, it's just time consuming. And the migration tool is tricky because you have to spend a lot of time mapping, you know, that this sub account is now becoming this dimension. So the idea around the dimensions is what's challenging.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that and say we've run into all different types of scenarios. We've done thousands and thousands of these types of projects. So and we haven't really run across one yet where we couldn't make the transition from one to the other. So you would be able to have, if you just need it for historical reporting, we could set it up that way. Also during this time, it's actually a great time to do some house cleaning on your chart of accounts. And I know with you guys merging with the other entity, it's actually a great opportunity because you guys could start off, you'd be merging, there's a lot of change there, but you actually could start off having everything nice and clean and organized and starting fresh, as opposed to trying to, cobble together two systems and reconcile all those things. So we've done it. I guess the bottom line is we've done this a lot over the years and have been in business since about '87. So there's really no worries there. It's just there's, like Misty said, sometimes there's some challenges, but we can work through those.
Sure.
Absolutely.
What is the typical length of implementation?
I guess it kind of depends on how many entities you have, and as far as if you're going to bring historical data over, it sort of depends. But Nathan, would you agree that it usually it's anywhere from a month to 2 months to really get it implemented and moving forward?
Yeah, we've done Intacct implementations in as little as 30 days, but typically it's anywhere between 60 to 120 days, just depending on how complex it is.
Right.
Okay. And what is an ideal cutover? Do people, obviously, you want to start like on the first day of a month, or?
Yeah, as far as go live, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you typically you'd want to start at the first day of a new period, or first day of was your fiscal year calendar year, or how do you guys do your fiscal year?
Calendar year.
Calendar year, okay. So you may want to start at the beginning of a new quarter, or we could start at the beginning of the calendar year. I'm not sure. We haven't really talked timeline for you guys yet, but we can work with you.
Okay.
And,
And normally, and just to add a note to that, I mean, normally, we agree that you guys are going to go with Intacct, and then there's a timeline provided, but there's some, we could be working in the background towards your go live date. So, you wouldn't be going live, say, a certain date. We would be working in advance to make sure that go live date happened.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to get a picture. We've implemented different kinds of software for operations and HR, and depending on the product, we've had some that have taken a year, some have taken 4 months, and so just trying to get a picture of what this would look like. So
yesterday when I was looking at some of the videos, we went into the Sage Intacct marketplace, and I noticed there's a lot of third-party vendors that have, I call them modules, that interact with Intacct. And so one of the things that we are very interested in is automation of AP.
Right.
Great. Yeah.
Is that would be an additional module that we would need to purchase to make AP automated?
And you mean automated as like OCR recognition, where you just scan in the invoice and it picks up all the information and does all the data entry for you? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yep, there's definitely marketplace partners for that.
Okay, and then we do positive pay to our banks. Is
Okay.
that a party, or is that already included in the core accounting?
It's actually just a report that that we've created, that Kerr's created. So we would get that installed for you. It's just a report that runs to a CSV file or however your bank accepts it,
Okay.
and then you can upload it.
And then I noticed one that was called allocation management. So how would that differ from what allocation capabilities the core Intacct has already?
And, you know, I'm not going to speak too much to that because I'm not sure. I know that it is much more robust, and especially the reporting capabilities. However, I'm not sure how it differs from the dimensions. Yeah, we'd have to find that out for you and let you know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to determine if the things that we're interested in, are they already in the product that you're showing us, or are we going to have to pay additional for a third-party add-on?
Absolutely. Yeah, Nathan, could you take a note of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, for the AP now, keep in mind what is in the product is super powerful. So typically, a lot of these marketplace partners, you're extending the system, and those requirements, people that take those requirements, they're pretty robust, as Misty said. Sorry, but there's a lot included with Intacct, and you know, allocations are something that it handles pretty well right out of the box.
Okay.
But we can definitely get you some more information there.
Right.
I don't think you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have to. Based on what I know so far, and we can get into this more when we get into discovery. I don't really think you're going to have to spend a bunch of add-ons. Because there's a lot included in Intacct, but we'll get into it certainly.
So we would just probably need to evaluate the core piece and then determine if we need any of the additional, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
I also saw that you have the ability to do cash basis and accrual basis, one or the other, or both?
Both. Isn't that weird? Both. That blows my mind. It can do both at the same time, which is really interesting.
All right, and that's just within the core product, right?
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. And, you know, and I really see the benefit of that too, because sometimes your reporting needs to be cash basis versus accrual base. So, you know, it just handles it naturally. You just provision the company that way when we set it up.
Okay. Right now, Sage 100 has a purchase order module in it, but we don't use it because for everyone that needs to enter a purchase order requisition has to have a license. Is that going to be the same way in Intacct, or is there a way that we're able to give people permission to enter purchase order requisitions that don't need permission to do anything else inside of Intacct?
Yes, and there are different levels of users that you purchase, and that might be just an employee user or a project management user, which is a lesser fee, and they have less capabilities, but they can do PO recs and purchase orders. Nathan, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's right on. So, and they'll, as Misty said, you have different types of users in there, and they cost different amounts. Full users obviously are the full amount, but there are much less expensive users in there to do tasks like that. How many people? Is it a set number of people, Donna, or is it you have a lot of people that need to be doing that, or how many are we talking about?
So how would you group the employees that put in purchase request?
All managers put in POs, which we have 38 of them.
So 38 to 40, 50, something like that, just depends. They would be managers that would put in the PO recs for their departments.
You know, what's really nice about that too is in Intacct, you saw how easy it was to set up or do a workflow for an AP invoice for approval. The same works in purchasing. So if they're doing the purchase order rec, then their manager can approve it. And the same works for journal entries. Lots of other workflows are available in there. So you can set it up even for a dollar limit. So, say Mary Jane can't do a purchase rec for more than $500. Otherwise, it's going to get flagged.
That would be really nice.
So they could do the purchasing. And then the really cool part about the purchasing module is that you can turn those PO recs into purchase orders. And then when you get the AP invoice, you can you can convert the purchase order right into the AP invoice. And just with a click of a button. It's pretty cool.
So, do you guys have a guide on the user cost, the licensing cost, like a breakdown of that?
Nathan does, yes.
Okay.
Nathan?
Yes. We can provide, as we kind of go through this call, we'll take you through some of these next steps, and we'll be able to quote those things and show you. And actually, I want to check, Missy, you may know the answer to this. You know how they'll sell the 10-pack of users? Is in that 10-pack, I wonder if those users can do PO recs.
I believe they can.
So that's good news if they can, because you can buy a 10-pack of users is not really very expensive.
Right.
So, if you've got 30, 40, 50 people, instead of having to buy, pay for each individual license, we can actually sell them in bulk like that.
I've got my little paper right here, in fact, because that question has come up before. So,
And I wonder, just thinking out loud, I wonder, if we wouldn't want to give them other reporting type things that a manager might want to have, that Laura might want to share.
they can have dashboards also.
Dashboard that we currently print or not print, but create a PDF and send in an email and,
Right.
log up our email.
It says the employee user, so those are those 10 packs that can view dashboards, reports, submit purchase requisitions, and approve purchasing transactions. And I believe the employee user can actually input timesheets if you guys decide to do the time management piece.
Okay.
That's great.
All right, I've got to go. This is Brittany. I've got to step out. I've got another demo this morning, so I'm going to leave it to Donna. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, Brittany. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany.
I think we probably caused you to stray from your presentation.
I've just been flown along with it. It's cool.
The only other question that I would be interested in, not question, but is security.
It is, it's one of the better systems I've seen because you can set up roles inside of, like they're very secure as far as what the security roles are set up as. So you would have, as many roles as you want, but if your CFO has the rights to see everything, but you don't want them to be able to enter AP bills, just because of segregation of duties, you can lock them out of certain things. You can lock them out of certain entities, certain screens. The same works for employee users, so it's very secure. But I will say garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not going to, pay attention to your security roles as far as setting them up appropriately, then you'll have problems later on down the line. But so if the right roles are assigned to the right people, then you're good to go, and it's very secure.
Well, within Sage 100 right now, we have basically the same type of security structure. We have roles, and then within the roles we have tasks. But the tasks are so hard to define. If one person might try to do something and they come up with a blank report. Well, when I try to go in to figure out which task affects that ability to see the data on that report, they're not defined where you can do that. So we struggle quite a bit trying to find the right permissions for the right person.
Right.
Would hope that in doing that it'd be just a little bit easier
I would agree. I don't, there's not necessarily what you're saying as far as task security reigns, but like I said, as long as you're dedicated to setting up the roles appropriately and then assigning the employees the correct roles, then you shouldn't have any problems with that. Where I've seen maybe some, problems come up was more of the user based, because this particular company, for example, they thought that they had full access, and somehow certain employees were not eligible to see certain dashboards. Well, it was just a user thing, so that their user type needed to be upgraded. It had nothing to do with security. So it just depends on the situation, really.
All right.
Yeah.
Hear what else you have, and I'm liking what I hear.
Okay. So we talked a lot about the dashboards. They're just super helpful, and you wouldn't want to drive your car without one. So why would you want to drive your company without one? That's my opinion. I like the drill down function. That is super handy. So if you're a person like me, I'm sure my mind looks like a million Chrome tabs open all at once, and trying to keep track of which one is which is challenging. So the being able to just drill down right when you're thinking about something is pretty powerful. So the report center there's a add-on module, which is the interactive report writer. So if you can't find something that you like in the 150 predefined reports, or you can write your own custom reports, it's just a little bit more, technical driven, I'd say. It has a really cool report center. It's very easy to use. It's drag and drop functionality of, okay, add this column, and you can do calculations in there and such. So it's pretty cool. And then it is dimension and account group driven. So you can have dimensions, and then you can have account groups. So you can group your accounts together. Like, say you wanted to see all your cost of goods sold together. You could group those together and then run reports on that. It does something I'd like to mention in the reporting aspect of things. It has what's called statistical accounts versus just regular GL accounts. And the statistical accounts keep track of things like employee head count, things that are not financial, but that you need to keep track of, like patient head count or employee head count, or even vacation hours if you had to track something like that. So the statistical accounts are unlimited as well, and it's just another segregation of your data. And it's non-financial. So that's kind of cool. And then the foundation, you can be single or multi-entity. It's very secure. Has inter-entity. You can share a modern chart of accounts. Kerr actually had a marketing email that came out the other day, and I just loved the title. It was called "Not Your Mother's Chart of Accounts." Nathan, I got to say that was awesome. It's just fun to go, yeah, it is modern. I like it.
It really is.
Yeah. And it has actually a cool feature called Collaborate, where you can actually use comments inside your transactions. So if you had an AP bill and you as a CFO were trying to figure out what it was for, you could tag somebody in that transaction in the Collaborate piece. So you would tag them and say, hey, Mary Jane, what is this for? And then they would get a notification in their Intacct to say somebody commented on a transaction. So you can have that record history based on a transaction using the Collaborate.
I like that a lot too. It's almost like social media inside the accounting system.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yep. So you can just chit chat in there. It's a good deal. It obviously can do so much. It's a very robust program. It can do, time to billing, which you would use can time for that. But again, we could talk about the integrations. And so one of the things that I love to talk about, and I should really move this around because I love the integrations most of all. And I like the theory that Intacct has decided that they don't have to be absolutely amazing at everything, that they have the cream of the crop integrations, and Marketplace is fantastic and you can find anything you want on there. But I like the idea that Intacct said, you know what, we don't have to be the best at absolutely everything, but let's find the best people for that industry and their software, and then figure out a way to integrate it into Intacct. So I often think about it as, I don't know if you're familiar with flowers or gardens of any kind, but if you don't dead hedge your roses, then no more roses are going to grow. So Intacct kind of thinks that too, let's not waste our energy on trying to be the best at everything. Let's put all of our energy into being the best at what we do. So I like that. And then it has a CVS or CSV upload, which is pretty unique to Intacct, and I really like that feature. It's pretty cool. And then let's see. So review questions, call to action. We'll kind of leave that up to Nathan and Donna if you have any more questions that you'd like me to answer.
Well, I don't have any questions, but we do own several third-party enhancements that, from what you've shown, just the general overview, we could probably get rid of those because those functions are already included in the core product. So that would be exciting. No more updates and renewals and.
That is a really nice feature for sure, because Intacct takes care of all of that for you because it lives on the cloud or in the cloud, and they take care of all the product updates, and they do it at a convenient time to where it's not going to shut your whole company down because it's not working. They're very considerate that way.
All right. Could we turn off recording for right now?
Sure. Yeah, let me just turn that off.